We're talking actors and directors who put on the shows.
We're talking playwrights and designers who you'll want to know.
From the very first rehearsal to the final curtain call.
We might be off Broadway, but we're talking about it all.
'Cause we're two local gals
with global pals. It's everything, everything, everything theater.
with Benita
And Ellen. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Everything Theater Podcast, the podcast where we talk about
Everything Theater. Hi, everybody. I'm Benita Zahn.
and I am Ellen Cribbs. And hey, it's fall. It's getting close to Halloween. So I hope everybody's got some fun costumes planned. And want to let everybody know that this weekend, right before Halloween, on the 27th, is the Craft Cast Party. And you were like, what is that? You need to go back and listen to our last episode where we talked to Patrick White all about the brand new theater festival coming right here in Albany, New York. And on Sunday is a cast party celebrating it, introducing it, and also, most importantly, fundraising for it so that we can bring all these wonderful companies together and celebrate this amazing region of theater come June. So if you want to come celebrate us and help support, the 27th Sunday doors opens at 6. There's entertainment starting at 7 and really great performers. There's light food to eat and wine, and it's going to be a great time. We hope to see you all there.
Be there or be square.
That's right.
And our guest tonight is someone who is steeped in theater in the capital region, and boy, has he branched out. Marc Christopher is with us, and it's so good to see you, Marc.
So good to see you.
I think the only way I get to see you is like this these days. You're like the Flash coming in and out of the capital region, right? I mean, Marc has performed many times with Park Playhouse Stage Company. And we were just reminiscing. We go back 10 years to a show that we did
Years.
together. But that was just the start of things. But he's not only a performer, he also designs sets. He's a singer. He's just, dude, you're everything. You're ubiquitous. So,
I like
Marc,
to say well-rounded.
well, there you go. Right now, you're performing in the Addams Family, Circuit 21 Playhouse out in Rock Island, Illinois, and clearly, given your hairstyle, you're Uncle Fester.
Oh yes, yes. We've been doing this since the end of September, or the beginning of September or mid-September, and we go until November 2nd. And we're having such a great time.
And if you get a chance, take a look on Marc's Facebook page because you'll see him in makeup, and wow, it's the
Full.
face only a mother could love.
She tells me every day she loves it.
Was it a big deal to shave your hate?
You know, the lead up to it felt like a big deal. I was kind of nervous about it. I was preparing myself for I knew about the show for about a year. I was offered the role a year ago. And I was preparing myself the entire time, like, okay, this is the time I'm going to shave my head. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. And the day I went to the barber to shave it, I was like just sweating. I was just so nervous. But I remember sitting in the chair and the lady looked at me. She's like, "All right, so what are we doing today?" I said, "Well, we're shaving it all off." She's like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yes, just do it, just do it." And like once I did it, I feel so liberated. I wake up every morning. I don't have to do my hair anymore. It's nice.
You're saving on shampoo,
Yeah, just
but
gotta
you got to
just
keep shaving it, right?
gotta keep shaving it. Yeah, because I get like the little side hairs that come back in, and you know, unfortunately, the top part was already thin as it was, so like it doesn't come in as fast. But like the side hairs,
Marc, how did you let's go back to the beginning. So you perform locally, and you're not equity.
yes,
What?
I am non-equity. Yes,
Right.
I am
And a
non-equity.
lot
So
of people
I
think you got to be equity to be the thing, but you also landed representation.
yes, yes. That's a new thing this year. I was able to get representation. It's been a process for that. That was a long time coming. It was a lot of work to get to it. I reached out to so many companies, and I finally got a hold of this company through a friend. Told me all about them, and I was like, you know what? I'll try submitting to them. And they got back to me. We chatted and we hit it off, and it kind of worked out on its own. It was kind of cool.
Why was it important for you to have representation, and what difference does it make?
So yeah, that's the thing I'm still kind of learning. I'm learning. Um, I so when I started back in 2014, I was still just kind of like jumping into the professional world. I started off in community theater. I was like working at Slock, Not So Common Players. I was doing all these great like community theaters in the area, that got me kind of like that bug. Um, and then I auditioned in 2014 for Park Playhouse for Hands on a Hard Body, and I ended up landing one of the roles. And then once I got that feeling of like, oh, professional theater, it was like exciting and something new and something different. And I just kept trying out, and I think I did a couple shows, still working full time as my muggle job, if you will. And then when I turned 30, about 5 years ago, I decided, let's try going to the city. Let's give it a shot, see what happens. Because I've always wanted to go, but I was always afraid to go. All through my 20s, I was kind of like, is this the time? Am I right for anything? Is this gonna be worth it? And so when I turned 30, I was like, you know what? Just go for it. And if it doesn't work, I can always come back home. Um, and I left, and it's been really great. I loved it down there. I landed a job as a singing server. Um, but then like having representation to me was important because it's like you can only go so far. Like I've been working 5 years, I can, considering the pandemic and everything. I've been working as a professional actor, in the city for that whole time. And I've been doing everything on my own, like negotiating, finding jobs, submitting audition videos, doing all that hard work on my own for years and years and years. And it gets to a point where it's like, if you look at my resume, it's like it's stacked with things I did on my own, but like I'm not getting into the bit. It's long. I had to cut things out because I was like, but I luckily had, Park Playhouse, Playhouse Stage Company that was, my hometown theater to come home to, and it was really wonderful. And I have a lot of theaters I've created relationships with. I keep coming back to, like Derby Dinner Playhouse and Circa 21. Um, but I wanted to get into more things. So I had a performance in Florida with Slow Burn Theater. It was my first equity contract, which I'm not equity, but it was a theater that is heavy in the equity world. Doing SpongeBob, and I was like, oh, that was the thing. So it's like, maybe since I'm getting these bigger jobs, maybe I can go get more. And I feel like having representation does get you a little more of a boost in that world to give you more of a bigger job opportunities. As far as I can go, as far as I can, but like sometimes that representation is like, okay, I have a friend or I know somebody or we hear about these auditions first. I'm going to submit you. So having that representation kind of just gives you a little bit of a leg up. And a lot of times I've noticed too in the years is that auditions, a lot of them are like are required, so people will do auditions just to have them because they have to. A lot of the times people are auditioning prior because they have agent calls. So it's like having an agent gets you in that first leg. So I felt like it was really important for me to try to get representation just so I can get a little boost.
I think what you shared is being a performer is not just about putting on the makeup. I landed the role and here I am. It's tremendous amount of work to get to put on the makeup.
Yes. So I consider this so whenever I'm at, in the city auditioning and like working and like doing all my side jobs and like auditioning and submitting, that's the work. When I get the job, this is the vacation. I'm in my, I get to relax a minute. I don't have to do 5,000 jobs to keep myself afloat and auditions. I'm still submitting and auditioning, but I'm actually in the job where I'm like, okay, this is my vacation. I get to play and have fun,
And that's why I
because I
feel
don't I
like
don't consider it a job.
I feel like a lot of this is where I'm going to gripe a little bit. A lot of training programs fail to talk about that aspect. There's not many courses that have a business of acting element, which is so important. People like train and train and they learn Meisner and Stanislavski, and then they get in the real world and they're like, what do I do? Where do I go?
And that's a big part of it. It's like I learned everything by doing. I actually never went to school to study theater because I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I really enjoyed theater, and it was like I was going to be an art teacher. I think I was going to school to be, I wanted to, I took a ceramics class and it ruined my life. Um, so I decided, art teaching was not my thing. But then I found theater as something that I enjoyed, and I find that pure joy into it. But the work, it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
Mark, why have you chosen not to get your equity card? Because one thing I'll say about equity is, look, it's got retirement benefits and health benefits and protection.
Correct. So in my mind, so as of right now, I mean, we all know there's a lot of issues. There's like a lot of different sides. Like, there's a lot of pros and cons to having the union status and not having it. My personal experience is that with open access, the competition level is through the roof. And I love to work and I love to perform. And I feel like if I were in my having my equity card right now, especially since I was still kind of new in the professional world. I mean, 5 years is very small compared to many people who have had 20 to 30 years of experience working in the theater. And I feel like I mean, I'm getting to a point where I feel like I could be ready. But I just feel like having my equity card would limit me right now.
In
Um,
other words, they want to hire cheaper.
it, exactly. And especially in the world right now, it's like since with the pandemic and everything, theaters have been hurting so badly. Like it's all around. It's not just community theaters hurting. It's not just regional theaters. It's everywhere. Everybody's hurting badly because everybody's spending their money differently. So they're not selling tickets like they used to, or they're not putting money where they need to put it or putting it somewhere else because they have to keep themselves afloat. So I feel like a lot of theaters have to do what they have to do. um and with equity, there's certain rules. You have to have a certain amount of money. And so like having non-equity actors, it's just cost effective for them. um and I don't know, I feel like there's nothing wrong with non-equity and having that mix in there, because I've worked with so many incredibly talented people who are in both union and non-union. And it's just like it's preference, I really think. Especially with my age right now, like the benefits would be great, obviously, but I think with me to get retirement out of the union right now, it's gonna take me some time. So to build that equity in there. So it's like, oh, it's preference. It's hard. It's hard to decide
That
whether when
becomes
you're
right.
ready.
The other challenge for working actors is to prepare for tomorrow. At 30 something, it's hard to think about that. And yet, I know some, as Ellen does also, actors who were equity and they were on Broadway and they made good change and they have a nice retirement now. I mean, heck, I work TV. I get it. How you looking at the retirement? 401k kid. But it is a lot, and I think that's part of why talking to you, Mark. I felt for Ellen and I, for our audience, would be interesting because so many people don't really understand the business of the business
Oh yes.
and the hustle of the business.
It is nuts. I Ever since I had my representation, I just received it. I will get 2 or 3 auditions within a week, and I have to do a self tape. Especially that I block out dates. If I'm booked somewhere, I'll block out these dates. I'm not available to appear here. But sometimes, like with commercial work, I'm up there. I have an agent now for commercial work and TV and everything. So it's like I still get commercial work auditions coming in where I have to like set up my backdrop, get my ring light, and get all this crazy stuff ready to go and still submit auditions. And it's like the work never stops. You will find me constantly emailing theaters and saying, looking at their seasons and saying, oh, I could do that show, I could do that show. Oh, I love that. You know, just recently I had to, I just was offered a Christmas contract in another theater. But I also got a second one on top of that. So I had offers coming in. So it's like you have to decide, okay, what's best for me at this time? And it's hard to say no. And it's really even harder to say yes sometimes because it's like especially if you're a people pleaser like myself, I like to, try to like not burn any bridges by any means, maliciously. If it happens, sometimes it does happen, but like you get blacklisted for no reason. Like you never know. But like it's just one of those
Yes, the
things that,
toilet seat up in the house.
yes, so it's just it's a hard job. Like you're always working. You're always looking for that next job.
What
I
would you
have
tell the
friends.
Mark, 10 years ago? What do you wish you had somebody tell you 10 years ago, Mark, when you embarked on this?
Don't be afraid and just do it because I think I was such on the fence the entire time and I was in a weird spot in my life. I think just try. Just go for it. Don't live with regret and just do it. I wish I did it sooner, to be honest,
You mentioned
for
tons of
sure.
self-tapes. Are you finding, is that because you're not like in New York City because you're all over the place that you're doing self-tapes, or is that just the biz now that everyone's just doing the self-tape?
Well, right now it's a mix of that. I feel like a lot of places are asking for self tapes for the initial calls. It's easier. I think I found out during the pandemic that like having 1,000 emails with 1,000, or having all, because I remember right before I left, before the pandemic happened, there was that hairspray audition, the infamous hairspray audition in New York City. And it was 3 blocks long of just people waiting to get seen. And I think they found that having the self tapes makes that first initial call much easier to break down and say, okay, we know what we're looking for. This is what we're going to bring in. Instead of just clogging up the streets with people just going in for an open call. They still have them now because they're going back to in-persons. I've noticed a lot of auditions are requiring people to go back into in-person um, for at least the callbacks. But for the initial calls, they're accepting video, submissions to make it a little easier to break down the amount of people who work because there's a lot of people in the pool. So it's tough. It's ooh, sometimes it's like it's hard to get seen. Like you'll send a video and if you do it unlisted, you can get it checked, you can see how many views you have. Sometimes you get zero.
Mm.
Yeah, so self-tapes, yeah, I feel like there's like been it's more popular because I think it breaks it down, makes it easier for casting.
So what's your setup? What you got? You got a green screen, you got a fancy ring light.
So I have this beautiful backdrop. I have it right next to me. That's it. It's purple because I just like the color on my
Is it
skin.
a
So
sheep?
it's like a photo backdrop. So there's a little texture to it, so it's not so, bland. I also have pop-up backdrops. I didn't bring it with me, but I had this. This was easy to pack. I have like my backdrop holder, my ring light, which is like a pizza. I'll show you. This thing is massive.
Oh my God,
It's
yeah.
huge,
You got a much bigger
massive.
ring light than mine is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but you two have one. Mine's like a
Yeah. I
foot.
say mine is much smaller in comparison.
Yeah, it always looks crummy. I think I need a much better something set. My setup is.
I got this one on Amazon. It was like I thought it was smaller than it was. I was like, oh, 22 inches. That doesn't. I know Carolyn put it over her body like a hula hoop. It was so big.
So I can make an inappropriate political joke and say yours is bigger than ours.
Yes, absolutely.
Take the girl out of the newsroom, but
But yeah, okay,
microphones, cameras. Do you do fancy camera or
cell
just
phones. I'm telling you, these iPhones, the cameras on these things, second to none. I have like I set it up to like, the highest quality and it's good. It's decent. And a lot of times, especially with Actors Access or like a lot of the websites that you upload your videos to,
Right.
it lowers the quality anyway. So
Mm.
like if you don't need anything crazy, you know. And it would be nice to have like a separate camera for like memory purposes because I mean my phone is just filled with self tapes
I was gonna say
and
that's
like
how
some
much are you spending on Google, to
you can
extra
get the
storage.
cloud, you
I
can
got five
upgrade to the
million
cloud.
right? But so you sing in the city when you're not acting, and you're not at Ellen's, you're at.
Gail's Broadway Rose.
How do you
Yes.
remember all those songs?
I don't even know. To be honest, I don't know. The thing is like especially with the Gales Broadway Rose, it's like I sing songs that I love, regardless of like my type. Because in the theater world we sing to our types, which is like everybody likes to believe that types don't exist, but they do. They do exist. So I get to sing songs that I normally wouldn't sing in the real world. So I'll sing like stuff from I'll like sing Fiero and Wicked and like I'll do all these like these beautiful ballads that I would never get the chance to do because I'm always the funny guy. But then I'll do songs like my favorite, Amos, Mr. Cellophane and stuff like that. Friend Like Me, things I would never ever get to sing in the real world. But like I just, it's fun. I think if you find songs that you really love and you enjoy, they'll just stay in there. They won't escape.
I'm always amazed, carrying over, eggs and bacon, and the next you turn around and you're
Oh,
singing.
so I was laughing because I'm the worst server there ever was. I am a horrible server.
But you don't
I,
get hair in it though, so that's good.
well, not now. Maybe I did before, but but I feel like so I'm a bad server, but a lot of times when you sing to people, all's forgiven. Like I could forget something on their menu or on their order, and as soon as I open my mouth to sing or do a performance, they're like, "Oh my God, all sins are forgiven."
And then you also design sets.
I do. Yes, this is like a something I kind of like I fell into, especially I started off in community theater doing set designs. At the Glove Theater years ago when I was like in high school early college.
As long as you didn't
I
have to make ceramic figures to go with it, right?
no no ceramics ever. Ah! Um, but yeah, I kind of like I just kind of dabbled in it, and I really because going to school for art, I loved painting, I loved to draw, I loved to create, and so when I was in community college, I would help with the sets with there, and kind of like learned how to how to dress a set and how to make it look different and how to paint a mural and how to like do all these different little tricks. And then after when I decided to stop going to college, I kind of was like, okay, I'm just gonna go into the real world because life happens. You had to grow up fast, so I had to just go into the real world. And then working at like Slock, I did a lot of set design. I directed shows that I designed. So of course, that's like a nice little perk when you're directing a show that you design the set for. You know exactly what you can picture in your mind. You know exactly what you need. So I just
There you
kept
go, Ellen.
Yeah.
it, it's so true. But yeah, so I just kept dabbling in it, and then recently, Playhouse Stage Company reached out this past summer, and they offered me the whole summer season to do the set designs, and I also did Spring Awakening with them as well, and I really love it. I enjoy it.
We
I'm
loved your
learning
set
new
on Spring
things.
Awakening.
Oh, thank you. But I'm learning how to do different I made 3D models on the computer. I taught myself how to do that. Um I'm a dabbler. I like to dabble. Um so yeah, I taught myself how to do that kind of stuff um and I kind of just yeah, I just use my creative brain and just figured out how to make something work and I always align myself with people who know how to build because I'm not a builder. So I always like gravitate toward people like, hey, how can I create this is my idea. How can we create this? How can we execute it? And I had, Dennis Strange, who was amazing. He's incredible.
Is a
We
part
miss it.
at Playhouse Stage Company. It's just moved on. Yeah.
Yes, he just moved on to another company. So he will be missed, and he was integral to all those set designs I did last summer. He was great. And the whole team there was just wonderful. So, and a lot of times I was out of town, and so I couldn't like Spring Awakening. I was not in town, so that I relied on people to execute my design for me, and it worked out great with some for Spring Awakening and Wonderettes. I had to have that was executed without me there. I was only there for Legally Blonde, which was a big set. That was massive, and that came out really beautiful. And then I was there for Finding Nemo Kids and or Junior. And yeah, so it was just, yeah, kind of just the whole summer of design. It was kind of fun.
And that's a hard space to design in too. Coho's Music Hall is definitely a challenge. There's no backstage.
Go backstage, and the stage is raked. So like you have to like,
With a
and
steps.
if those who don't know what rake is, it's just like that the incline. It's like a slight incline that goes to the back of the wall or to the back wall. And sometimes like trying to put a wall straight, you have to make sure you angle it a certain way to make it look straight. So it's a challenge, and it's great to have builders who know what they're doing because I do not.
And there's like no wing space either.
No wing space, and no, and flying it's because it's an old system. Flying is sandbags, and that's hard. So you can't fly anything without having the manpower, and you need a lot of manpower for that. Because one day, hopefully, that gets updated. You can have like more fly space because it has beautiful fly space. But it's an old theater. I mean, it's only so much you can do. But I've learned at Cahoes after all doing all those shows to design unit sets is much easier, and just like having the floating furniture that comes in and out to kind of signify where you are, or being more creative in that aspect, making more of an abstract set in that space because it works better in that small space than it
Well,
would like
obviously you love performing. I mean,
I love
you know,
performing.
Prather Production, Circa 21, Slow Burn, Derby Dinner Theater, Surflight Theater, Playhouse, more Circa. It just, this is just some of your stuff. And then the design. But you're not living at home. I know you got a sweetheart.
I do.
Look at the smile. Who's also in theater.
Yes.
And you're packing and going, and it's a peripatetic life. You pack for 2 months, and then you come home. Hopefully, you brought everything back, and then you got to remember what to take with you on the next. Do you see yourself continuing that route, or does scenic design hold a place for you that says, yeah, you know what, that I can make a living at and have my sweetheart on my side?
Yes. So I don't know. I feel like I've since I've worked at so many places, I'm learning a lot more with the scenic design world and like seeing what other people do and how they handle things. And I've reached out to like Jeffrey Perry, who did the Something Rotten set. He helped out with that. And I like I talked with him about it, and I was like, there's a lot of things I don't know in the professional world of scenic design. There's a lot more to it. And a lot of people go to school for it and they have to learn, there's a lot of like drafting and like that kind of like work that I'm still trying to figure out. Drafting is not easy. It's like, I'm horrible with math. Um, that is number one with that. So I feel like for now, while I can, I would love to travel and still do the theater world. It would be wonderful. It'd be amazing if I can go have a play or have a show that is in an area where I can just stay put and not have to travel. I would love to stay home, Um, but like I said before, I didn't do this in my 20s. I waited till I was in my 30s. I didn't experience this like the bohemian life until later in life, and I miss home. I miss Carolyn. I miss my mom. I miss everybody. I miss all my friends at home. It's tough to be away so much, but like I said, this is not work. This is my joy. I really I love my job, because it's like when I was working a full-time job, staying put in an office, I was miserable. I was mean. I was not myself. But as soon as I decided to do this, I just am I'm full of joy. I'm happy. I just really love what I do. So I mean, yes, the sacrifice is horrible. Like I wish I could be home and I want to be home all the time. I'm very lucky that, between this contract and the next, I get, a week to work at the restaurant and see my friends in the city. And then I get another week or so, maybe half a week to go visit my mom and go see Carolyn and go see some friends before I go. And then, be back for after the holidays. But I'm also still learning too with having a representation. I'm not booking myself out like I did last year. I booked out a whole year in advance. I'm still kind of like holding off and waiting to see what happens.
Mhm.
People and I are taking a vacation in January, so I'm like blocking off that January slot because I want to go on vacation.
You have
You
to.
know, so,
You have to. I'm working on a project, a presentation I'm giving later this week on burnout. You have to. We're all we go, oh, I can't take care of me. That's selfish. No, the most selfish thing we do is not take care of us. Because if you don't take care of you, especially on the road, then you don't show up. When the curtain goes up, you're not all there.
right.
And so there are a lot of people relying on you.
Burnout is it's a real thing. Like, um, luckily I had the whole summer off. Like I think if I was performing this summer, I would have been crushed. I would be done. Because I think having that, because I was like constantly going. I was in, for Christmas, I was doing Christmas Carol. And then from Christmas Carol, I jumped into Footloose. And then Footloose right into SpongeBob. And SpongeBob was my last show. And I was like, okay, breather. And then I had get to, do the set design thing. And I worked at the restaurant and like, just keeping it simple and it was like, though I would love to have been booked, but I think I needed that. That was much time away from the craziness to take a moment to get back into it. Because in the fall, I jumped right into this and like, okay, I'm energized, ready to go. Uncle Fester, ready to go.
But I don't know the time when I kept checking, and now we're like 4 minutes.
Do you want to
What's
do a
that?
super fast close-up
Yeah.
segment? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we
Wow.
usually end, Mark, with a close-up segment, just some rapid-fire questions about you. Are you ready for your close-up?
Oh my God, yes.
When was the moment in your life when you just knew I have to do theater?
Oh, when I did Grease, back when I was in middle school, I played Duty and I sang my first solo ever, like in front of like it was like the community theater scene, where I got to sing a solo and that applause, was intoxicating. So
What
that bug never left.
what shows had the biggest impact on you, whether something that you worked on or just saw?
Oh, so something rotten this 2 summers ago? Yeah, 2 summers ago. Um, really was like it was a character that I found myself in and having so much fun on stage, even though it was so hot and the air quality was horrible. I had the absolute best time and I wouldn't change anything for that.
Which you
But
were
that was like,
phenomenal
yeah.
in that, by the way.
Ah,
And you got
thank
a
you.
lot of kudos for it.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think what got me too is when I was in high school, I saw The Lion King on Broadway with my high school, and that changed my life. That was just seeing that was like, oh, that's what theater is. It was, yeah, that was, yeah.
Any bucket
So two
list
things.
roles?
Oh, I got very lucky this year. I got to play, so many dream roles, with Nostradamus, and then playing Patrick Starr. I would love to play Amos Hart in Chicago one day. I would love to. The dream role is in Wicked. I want to be the wizard. Will see you now, guy.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to
Awesome.
pop in and go, the wizard will see you now, and be done. Princess back.
Mark, this has been delicious, delightful, wonderful. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me.
This has been wonderful. As I really appreciate you spending your time with us in all the way from Illinois. And our listeners, check us out on Sunday. Come party with us for the Craft Festival. Starts on at 6 o'clock. Doors open. 7 o'clock performance. Come enjoy at
Rose
the
Music
Cohoes
Hall.
Music Hall. Thanks, everybody. I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And I'm Benita Zahn. Thank you. Be well. We'll see you next time. Mark, go slay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to the Everything Theater podcast. Special thanks goes out to Alice Grinling for our photography and Justin Friello for composing our amazing theme song. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to share your thoughts or what's going on in your theater community, you can reach out to us on social media or through our email at everythingtheaterpodcast@gmail.com. Till next time, it's everything, everything, everything.